It looks like we already have a number of questions coming in. So let's field the first question from our online audience. And this comes from Anand. Anand asks, Evan, I'm working with the Asian Youth Social Entrepreneurship Association, and we're trying to empower youth through entrepreneurship. How can entrepreneurship be a skill set that is valuable for employment, and what overlap is there?
Wow, thanks, Andy. And for all of you watching in Phnom Penh and Singapore, thank you so much. I'm incredibly inspired to get the opportunity to talk to you guys and see what you're working on. So the overlap between entrepreneurship and job creation. Let me sort of maybe address that first from just sort of generally what are some of the trends that we're seeing in terms of the workforce here in the US and the developing world, and sort of how those will continue spilling out around the world. So it's a overly used idea maybe, but if you sit around in San Francisco or New York and you're talking to technologists nowadays, the way that they generally think about things is that almost any task that can be automated, almost any task where you could write it down and go first do 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, whether physically or even in the digital realm, is probably going to be automated sooner rather than later, right? And this represents a massive, massive shift in the nature of work, not just in San Francisco or New York, but ultimately in China or Africa or France or in Singapore or Cambodia, because you can ultimately produce machines that can produce this kind of work product at incredibly low cost. And so the consequences of that are that if you're thinking about what the nature of work means, if you're 18 years old today and you're thinking about what the nature of work means over the arc of your career, and you want to make sure that you're not being pushed down to the sort of lowest commodity of labor and competing with machines that are automating tasks, you have to be able to essentially solve problems, right? You have to be that person that's able to take complex pieces of information, complex challenges, put that together, create new things. And in our society, we call that skill set of being able to sort of take all these different pieces of information, see something that other people don't, create something new, we call that the entrepreneur. And so, whether your goal is to ultimately build your own business, whether it's to join somebody building a business, whether it's to even work in a larger organization, having that sort of basic core entrepreneurial skill set, being able to identify a problem, see a potential solution, pull the resources together, create something is just critically, critically important in our economy as it's emerging and changing. The way I would often describe it is we get large corporations all the time coming to 1776. And we have here in Washington, D.C., probably 260 startups that we work with, 500-600 entrepreneurs. And then globally, we work with maybe another 950 or 1,000 startups. And we get corporations come to us all the time and go, listen, we would be really, really interested in hiring any of your startups that aren't successful. Even the ones that fail, because they're so desperate to get that kind of entrepreneurial skill set into their organizations because it's becoming so critical. So to answer the question directly, teaching entrepreneurship to youth today is not just about empowering them to go build their own businesses. It's about using the experience of thinking through building their own businesses to give them the skill set they're going to need to be effective and successful in the changing economy over the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years, whether the way they do that is ultimately building their own business or their own social enterprise, or whether it's helping someone else or some large corporation solve these kinds of problems.